had anxiety and focus, and then today's webinar is on depression and stress. So, that being said, you've probably been attracted to this for one, maybe you're experiencing a lot of stress and depression or a depressed state. Or maybe you have some loved ones that are experiencing this and you want to gain some insight on how you can help them. Either way, you are here. And even if you don't experience all of that or any of that, you're still going to have a great time and learn something and experience as well. So we're going to be doing yoga. I have changed it up. We have a new background now. So if you like the new background, give me a thumbs up. Always looking to get some interaction going in. It's just lovely to see that I've got other people on the other side of the screen. So today we're talking about depression, and I honestly, I hesitated a little bit when creating this one, and I even delayed it to being the third in the series, because in order for me to really tap into that, I find I do best when I channel that energy myself. And I have been depressed in the past. I find that I have little bouts of it every once in a while, but I've also been there as far as watching my loved ones having and suffering with depression as well. So I understand depression, and if you don't, or you're looking to gain insight, we're definitely going to talk a little bit about that as we get started as well. So some key words that I wrote down when channeling this in was heavy, weighted, bound, not feeling free, feeling less than or not worthy, feeling like you'll never be good enough, and feeling the weight of expectations that might be weighing down on you as well. I find darkness is definitely something that describes stress, excessive stress, a depressed state, and depression. Darkness in the sense of it's almost like the lights are out and you're scared to move. It's difficult to get by because you would have to do so much more to navigate through a room and through a life. If everything was really dark, you would have to be feeling around, and you would have to be careful and scared not to trip over things and mess things up. And so I find that darkness is definitely the way to describe it. And on the opposite end of the spectrum, I would definitely categorize anxiety as being more in that, like, it's so bright that you can't see, and depression is that it's so dark it's hard to see. That being, I find that many people of my clients and people that I have experienced with depression as well tend to gather and accumulate their little mini tribes where they commiserate in their depression as well. And I'm not judging by any means when I say these things. I intend them as observations. That people that tend to suffer with these darker thoughts and darker states, I find, tend to accumulate habits as well, such as horror movies and sci-fi maybe, or murder mysteries and things of those sort. And I don't think it's, in part of my studies, I was like, oh, it's because they watch those. And I think a lot of parents get that too. It's because they watch those that they're causing those darker states in their mind. And I don't believe so. I believe we connect to those, and those seem more interesting because they create this visual of the inner demons that are going inside, of the darkness that is going inside. And so there's able to connect to those. And so in energetic work, we always say like attracts like. So in order to be attracted to that, there is some innate inner darkness that's going on as well. And I think it's because if you've ever watched a horror movie or anything of that, there's a lot of excitement. There's a lot of emotion. There's a lot of creativity that goes along with that. And I find that people that are embodying their stress, which tend to be empaths, taking on all of this energetic energy, is bringing it in and holding on to it because they don't know what to do with it, because we don't talk about what it's like to feel too much. That often, and I found this in my childhood, was, people were always like, oh, they're crazy because they had too much emotion. And we tend to almost demonize those people and outcast them for having too much emotion. And so many of us have avoided those conversations because we don't want to be outcast, because that's already one of the problems, right? Is this tribal mentality and wanting to belong but not feeling worthy. And so it creates this spiral in the fact that we avoid talking about it. And so I want us to break free of that. Break free of that and allow ourselves to talk about feeling. Because in all reality, and I want to empower you to know that being an empath, feeling emotions, and not allowing yourself to really utilize that, because it's power. It is power. You have the ability to tune into people's feelings. You have the ability to interact with people on a different level that other people aren't able to. But there's training that needs to come about with that. And the fact that we need to learn the boundaries. We need to learn how to communicate on this harder level, as well as our softer level. Because people that are empaths tend to find themselves as artists, as musicians, as poets or writers. They find themselves easily swept up and easily obsessive about things. And that does not have to be a bad thing. Where it becomes unhealthy is when we start turning to drugs or alcohol because we're just trying to shut down the emotions instead of utilize them. But what if we could create boundaries? What if we could distinguish between that is their energy, that is not my energy, and allowing ourselves to build that up? And one of those capacities and capabilities is our ability to move. And so, with that being said, a lot of people that are in the more depressive state, and of course, there's always a spectrum. And I like to say depression is like a hole. If you've sunk down to the lower layers, it's going to be more challenging, versus when you're up higher, you can see the sunlight far off in the distance. And so if you're in those further levels, you're feeling this almost atmospheric pressure pushing down on you, and that's that depressive state. It's like being in the pool, and if you've ever dove into the deep end, you feel that pressure on your lungs when you're at the bottom, and you might still feel the water when you're at the top, but you feel more in control. And so things that you might notice is that it's harder to get yourself up and to move. It feels like you're in the gunk, you're in the muck, you're in the mud, and you're having to remove that layer, or at least fight the mud just to get yourself up. And then you're still trudging. Or it might feel like you're wrapped up in cobwebs. And I particularly use this analogy because the cobwebs that are consuming our body, there is a real level of that. And it's called fascia, and it's underneath of our skin, and it's over top of the muscles, and it's there for a reason. So we need that little bit of fight. However, we can have a large buildup of fascia, and this is where it does become harder to move. It does become harder to stretch. It does become harder to really feel on a physical level and understand our body. And that might be because you have disconnected from the body. Maybe you're all up in your head with your depression, or maybe you're all in your body with depression. Now, I personally, I was the person that I was very much in my body, and so I felt everything. And that allows me to become a better yoga teacher. I've utilized that as something that does help me. However, I also recognize what it's like to be completely disconnected and to be all in the head, and then to not be aware of the body as well. And this is what I find a lot with many of my clients, is they are avoiding the sensations of their body. And there can be many, many different reasons why. I'll touch on just a few because I don't want to spend the whole time in lecture. I want us to get into some movement here soon. However, I find maybe you were told as a small child that physical sensations, anything that felt good in your body, was wrong or bad. And so maybe we disconnected in that way. Maybe you had something happen to you physically and you wanted to disconnect from that, and so you moved into your head. But the other thing can happen is when we've experienced and we've seen and we've heard so much that we want to get out of the head and into the body, then we might rest in the body and be very, very heavy. But that heaviness can still happen in the body whether we're in the head or not. We might just not be as connected to why we have so much heaviness. But the heaviness comes into our body because we are weighted down with emotions that are most likely unprocessed or attachments. Attachments can be attachments of what expectations are in life and the expectations that we feel are on us as well. And so one important thing is to release the attachments, and maybe you want to do a cord cutting meditation. I find hypnosis is extremely valuable at this state because at some point you felt like you are never going to be good enough. You don't feel worthy enough, and you might not feel like you belong. And those are just thoughts. Those are just attachments to thoughts. They are not real. We're all worthy. We're all equally worthy. We are all equally enough, and we all belong to Earth. So we need to begin to release all of those attachments. And we will do a short guided meditation shortly hereafter. And I will be walking you through healing our inner child, which I find is extremely, extremely valuable to anyone suffering with depression or not feeling worthy or not feeling enough. But as we get started in our movement, we are going to start simple. Now, you can do this in a chair, of course, but we're going to start on the floor, and we're going to start laying on the floor because I find that's where we feel most comfortable. If we say we're going to do movement, I will find people often just laying on the floor because they need that relaxation because they are not experiencing it. You need a deep level of healing and release. So we want to release. We want to break free of our attachments, break free of all of the weight, the expectations, and allow ourselves to move out of scarcity and into abundance. So let's find ourselves on the floor. You can be on a rug, on a yoga mat, however you need to do. And in fact, you could even do these in bed. So that should be a video coming up, right? I'm going to bring myself over to my yoga mat, and I am going to lay on the floor. I'm going to keep my feet on the floor because this allows me to help relieve any stress on the low back. And I'm just going to start with my knees swaying side to side. However, if you need just a few deep breaths to start, go with it. Inhale and exhale. Start to find your breath. So in through the nose, out through the mouth. And so we're stirring up the energy, the movement into the body. Yoga does not have to be this big, grand practice, and especially your home practice does not need to be an hour. It doesn't need to be a half an hour. You could spend 15 minutes just on the floor, just breathing and trying to feel your body. So feel your feet and how they interact with the floor. As you sway side to side, notice what's happening to your feet. Notice what's happening to your breath. And then notice this rock and this sway from the hips. What do you feel? Does the right and left side feel equal or different? And then let's let the knees drop a little bit more to one side. You could stay up tall, Or maybe you'd like to let them fully drop. That's up to you. Notice what happens to the shoulders. Notice what happens to your jaw. And then tighten through the core and pull yourself up and over to the other side. Again, this might be shallow, it might be deep. We're practicing letting go, so as we release the jaw, we can release the hips. As we relax the fingers, we can relax the toes. Let's take 2 more deep breaths here. Bring yourself back up. And then we're going to place one hand on the heart and one hand on the belly. So hand on the heart, hand on the belly. And often what can lead us into depression is the heart. So if you would like to rub on the heart, maybe the muscles of the chest, or you can just let your hand rest there. Do you feel like your desires at some point in your life have been told they were wrong or told you cannot have them? When our desires are denied, they turn into despair. Despair pushes us into a deep resistive state. It weighs heavy. Allow the hands to come up. As the hands come up, we'll take this as our inhale, and our exhale, the hands come down. Inhale, hands come up. Exhale, hands come down. Massaging the muscles of the heart. Notice any tension in the jaw or in the hips. Try to release. You can even give your knees a little wiggle. And the next time your hands land in that upper position, have the palms face each other, and then we'll inhale, take it out. Exhale, bring it back in. And your hands do not have to go all the way to the floor. Whenever you feel that resistance, that it might be challenging to come back up, that will be your stopping point. I'm going to exhale, close it in. Inhale, open. Exhale, close. You might even notice a little bit of a pelvic tilt happening. If you're overarching and preventing, try to tighten up through the core. And if you have a block or a pillow on this next one, we're going to be rolling over to one side. So you can also use one hand as a pillow if you'd like. I'm going to take the hand on top so my shoulders are stacked, my hips are stacked. You can even have a blanket or a block or bolster underneath in between the thighs if needed. And we're going to open up on that inhale and close it in on the exhale. Inhale and exhale. And for some of us, you might even like to have that bigger movement. But I urge you to try to keep it small. You might even rub the chest as you open up. And take it to a breath. And inhale to open. And exhale to close. As you inhale, you're opening up, you're breaking free, you're allowing yourself to find hope and possibility. And as you close, know that it's okay to release. But sometimes we're so used to feeling heavy that emptiness might feel too light. And we equate that emptiness with loneliness, but it doesn't have to be. It's nice to have a clear, clean space with room to dance and move, space to think. You might even notice this in our internal and external world. Is your external world filled with clutter? Are your walls covered? Is there something in every space of your shelves? Notice, can you make space? Can you allow yourself to not have it all? Give yourself space to create new. We're going to roll it over to the other side, doing the same. So hips are stacked, shoulders are stacked, hand is out, and we're tracing through, opening up. Exhale, bring it back in. You might notice one side feels different than the other. We do have our left side is our receiving. The right side is our giving. Notice, do you allow yourself to ask for and receive help? And on the right side is our ability to give. And these are not only in the external world, but also internally. Are you allowing yourself to receive love and give love? Often in depression, we're in survival mode. We're thinking about everything that could go wrong. We're thinking about everything that has gone wrong. And often we feel a little less hopeful. But here we're cleaning off the cobwebs. We're allowing ourselves to open up, because in order to have a new life, we must first let this one die off. Feeling that inhale and exhale. Often we resist change because our ego, our inner self, this current self, fears no longer being. Bring yourself back to center. We'll roll up into a tabletop position. And so take your time arriving there. And again, we're moving slow. So let's stretch the wrists. This helps with carpal tunnel. We'll just flip the hand upside down, and then we're just going to scrunch the fingers in and out, keeping that consistent breath. Right now in our country with COVID and isolation, so many people are turning to ending this life. And I urge you to think about ending life in a different way. To think about, what about this self? What if we could start over, brand new tomorrow? I know I've had that thought before, switching hands. What if you could just run away and start a new life, start over? But what if you could do that? You could do that here and now by allowing the habits, the thoughts, the attachments to completely release and allow yourself to be born again. And we hear this in religious context, and I find when we're in a depressed state, the opposite of depression is this heightenedness. And that heightenedness, when we get into energetic, is Mother Earth at the low point and Father Sky at the other. And so often a lot of these 12-step programs will find ourselves side to side seeking some spiritual, something higher to connect to. It's our tether, our rope to pull ourselves up and out. And if you have any attachments to what that means to you, that you've had experiences in the past, we're moving side to side, we're going to move front to front. You had some attachment to something that happened in the past for you, and you have a negative connotation to that. Allow yourself to release that and think about what you want to create. From here, if your wrists are sore, you can take fists. We're going to be moving into our cat-cow, wakening up the spine. Inhale and exhale. So it's a little bit opposite than you might do in a standard yoga class. This is an inhale, so we're inflating. Exhale, relax the jaw. Release the hips. One more time. Bring the hands back down. If they were in fists, tuck the toes and shift yourself into your downward facing dog. Pedaling out the legs. You can take this to however long as you need. Maybe you like to walk the hands in, and you can support yourself in this forward fold by placing the elbows on the knees. Or if it feels comfortable, it feels safe, allow yourself to hang and breathe into that heart region. You might let yourself sway, try to release it out. So nothing has meaning. Nothing has meaning except for the meaning that we give to it, except for the attachment, the purpose, the value that we give to it. Walking your hands back out, you can bend your knees, you can come down to the knees if you need to. We're going to have the wrist fairly underneath the shoulder and lower down with an exhale. And we're going to open up the heart. So we'll have the thumbs right next to the nipples. Squeeze the shoulders and elbows in and lifting up, pushing out through the toes. Exhale, release. Many people with depression have back pain. So allowing ourselves to move in these counter postures. Allow yourself to float here. Maybe you push into the floor, maybe you don't. So if you do push into the floor, don't hyperextend. Just enough support. We're going to push into the knees, push into the hands. We're going to move ourselves back into child's pose. So this would be the opposite of where we just were. Allow yourself to breathe. We're breathing into the heart. We're breathing into the spine. So you may have back issues because all of the stress that is in the mind is traveling down the spine and through the nervous system and branching out. And so as we can breathe into our spine and as we can open up our heart, we can facilitate the healing. Deep, steady breaths. Often when we're depressed, our breathing is as well. And so our breathing becomes very shallow. So we really want to practice these big, deep, almost Darth Vader style breaths. Bring yourself back up. Again, we're coming forward, dropping down. Exhale. And here we'll take cupped fingers, and we're going to squeeze those shoulder blades together. So this is much more in the upper back this time. Squeeze the shoulders and release. Squeeze the shoulders and release. One more time. And then we're going to look under towards that toe, come back to center. Look under towards the toe and center. Two more times, one more on each side. When you bring yourself back to center, add a little support. You can bring your forehead to the hands, and we're just going to kick up 1 foot at a time. And so this will compress. You might feel this in the glute, you might feel this in the lower back. Allow yourself to just breathe. So each movement has a breath. This is an exhale and an exhale. And you can have as many props or anything that you desire while you're here. And so sometimes laying on the belly can be uncomfortable. But as we push on the belly, we're pushing on that digestive system as well. And so our digestive system is extremely important to our mental health. We want to push out any toxins that are sitting in our gut, and this will help facilitate that as well. From here, bring your hands down, push into the knees, squeeze the belly, and lift up through the back of the head. Come back into that child's pose again. And this is where if you had stuff underneath of you, you can always gather it in. You can always come to your elbows. You can take your knees as wide as you need. But what we're really looking to do is that cat-cow movement, the in and the out, the bending one way, the bending the other. We're really looking to facilitate that with the spine. So very creative people have an easy time moving in these side movements. But gaining more focus, we move in this front to back movement. Bring the hands up. You can come out of this two ways. So a lot of times when we come out of these positions, we move through that down dog. However, I find this is much easier if we're on this tabletop position. Let's take one leg, bring it around so we're in a kneeling position, and then allow yourself to come up. Take a deep breath. And you can push into this front knee and bring yourself up from here. Inhale, reach up. Bring the hands to prayer to heart. Let's slide down, and we're going to step that right foot back. Your warrior postures do not have to be huge. So this is warrior one. You might often see this big stance, hips are forward, but you can be in a comfortable stance as you need, and this can be as wide as you need, especially for us females with wider hips. Guide the hips forward. And if you feel any tweaking in the ankle, just step it in closer. We do not need to experience pain within our yoga posture. We need to be able to breathe into it. That life is not about suffering, but we also do want to push ourselves in a little bit of effort. This is how we build up that tolerance, and we're also breaking free of all of those cobwebs. Hips are forward, inhale, reach up. And we're going to bring the hands together, call this the Charlie Angels Mudra. We're going to take some big exhales, purse lips. And as we do this, bend into that front knee. Imagine this is your sword, and you're slicing through all of the cords, all of the attachments, anything that's keeping you in suffering. Exhale. One more time. We're going to let that right foot, that right knee come down. So if you need anything underneath of it, go for it. Take a moment to breathe. Often if we're seated a whole lot, this psoas on this side is going to be a little tight. We're going to step that knee back. Come back into your child's pose. Breathe into your heart, breathe into your ribs. Big deep breaths, releasing with the exhale. As you come up, we're lifting through the back of the heart, the back of the head, push into the hands, walk yourself back in. And if you put the right foot forward last time, try to do the opposite. If you don't remember, don't worry about it. Bring yourself back up. Hold here for a moment, deep breath. We'll place the hands on that front thigh, and then step into that foot and guide yourself up. Now this time, that left foot will step back, or opposite of last time. Hips forward, guiding the hips forward, bend that front knee, inhale up. Bring the hands into prayer down to heart, big exhale. Removing the energy as we move the postures. Charlie Angels Mudra. Inhale, we're slicing through. Push your feet in opposite directions. Imagine your strength, your warriorness, and exhale. Slice through it. You have a big sword. Cutting through the crap, the cobwebs, all the cords that keep us bound up and attached. Big exhales. Let's do 3 more. Releasing, hands come to knee. We'll slowly lower down. Stay here for just a moment. We're stretching through that psoas. And the psoas here is also important not only because we might be seated a lot, but it's wrapping up and through the digestive system into that third or that 12th rib, which can irritate the low back as well. So if your low back is often going out, the psoas is most likely tight. If the psoas is most likely tight, then we're probably having limited digestion as well. And so with our digestion, we should be going 2 to even 3 times a day. Not too soft, not too hard. Easily eliminating what we bring in and then releasing what we don't need. If we find that we're holding on to that, it could be the stress. It could be the digestion. Now stress accumulates around the midsection. So if you find that you're fairly healthy weight everywhere else, but the midsection is larger in proportion, this is stress. This is all of our worries. Maybe we're blocking them from coming to our heart and we're keeping them locked up here in the midsection. We're denying our gut reactions. We're limiting our confidence, our self-worth. Bring that knee back around. We're going to come back into that child's pose one more time. Take the knees as wide as you need. Add as much support as you need. You can even double fist stack for the forehead if you don't have blocks. And things you may like to do here is maybe one hand behind the back. Breathe into it. Releasing, taking the other hand behind the back if you were there. And releasing. For this next portion, we're going to be laying on your back. So as you rest into Savasana, you can lay flat on your back. You could have a pillow underneath the knees, underneath the low back. You could just be resting, or if you find that's going to be uncomfortable for you, then please allow yourself to sit on the couch or lay in bed for this next portion. I'm going to come a little bit closer so that you can hear me a little bit better as we move into our guided relaxation. So laying in your relaxation, finding yourself there and taking a few breaths once you arrive. Imagine a fresh new baby, completely unattached to the feelings of what is fear, only knowing love, no expectations, just love, able to easily give and receive love, a clear channel, a clear filter. But as this baby grows and evolves with their society, each time they are told no, yes, receiving a frown or a smile, a laugh, or a look of disappointment, new strings, new attachments to words and behaviors are formed. Some children are bound up in attachments. Others, it may be simple. Notice your inner child. How bound, wound, or free that child is of attachment. Your inner child within you. child of you from the age of 0 to 7 who is controlling your subconscious, your fears, your expectations. Allow yourself to go within to this room within you that this inner child sits, either waiting, playing. As you find your child, tell them that you are there to help them, that you are there to set them free, to allow them to start over. And however feels safest with you, maybe some children's safety scissors, maybe plucking and removing. We're going to cut or release each one of those strings. Maybe it is that you feel wrapped up and consumed in a spider web. In a cocoon. As we unravel this cocoon, this spider web, this chrysalis, we release the shell. You might even imagine, as you're set free, feeling wings, feeling your ability to stretch and move, feeling your heart opening, feeling light, feeling open, feeling released. Allow yourself to breathe. That we can leave behind this old version of life, this old way of thinking. That the expectations we had before no longer apply to us or our life. That you are now free. And you become so aware of attachments that are being formed that you can quickly say, no, that is not mine. That's your attachment and I don't want it. That you can form your own attachments. That you have the power of your own string. That you choose how to show up in life and to choose whether you want it to be a positive or negative experience. And you choose to each day cleanse yourself energetically, noticing each day which strings have tried to attach and which ones you want to leave there or remove. That we now take on our own energetic hygiene. To allow ourselves to remain free, unbound, able to release, letting go of what no longer serves us, and making the space to move, the space to breathe. Noticing that we don't have to hang on to everything. That we don't have to have every space filled, weighing us down. That we can release it. We can be light. That we can move with the wind and dance with the music. Allow yourself to take 5 deep breaths. Whether you're laying on the floor or on a bed or in a chair, just start to add movement into the fingers and toes as you begin to deepen your breath. And you can make those movements bigger. Maybe you move the wrists and the ankles, maybe the elbows and knees. Maybe you add a sway. And we'll stay on our back, keeping our feet or bringing our feet onto the floor if you're laying on. And we'll start that breath we did in the beginning, just this opening, expanding like you have wings, and then bringing it back in on that exhale. Inhale and exhale. Letting it go when you're ready. If you're on the floor, begin to roll over to one side. Feel the floor underneath of you. Allow yourself to be in the present moment. And as we slowly begin to open our eyes, we'll push into the floor, draw ourselves up, and come back into seated. And if you are seated, then just gently opening your eyes and taking any stretches or movements as you're there. So here, it's all about healing. It's about releasing. It's about becoming light, releasing the heaviness. And we can do that in different ways within our life. We can do that with our external environment, allowing ourselves to cleanse and purge, noticing how much stuff do you have on your walls? How much stuff do you have on your shelves? Noticing how clean and organized is the environment. Is it cluttered and weighing down on you? Are you trying to fill every inch? What about your diet? Are you constantly seeking outer fulfillment and bringing it in? Does your gut feel full? This is about releasing the heaviness, releasing the thoughts, the attachments. And if you have not yet, please go through the mini free course I have for the Yoga Sutras, talking about these attachments and how we need to clean out our metaphoric closet of all the clothes that no longer fit. It's kind of like when you've gained a lot of weight and you keep hanging on to these outfits and clothes because you want to get back to that size one day. You want to be able to wear them, but you've gone so long that they're no longer in style. And in fact, if you lost the weight, you really wouldn't want to wear them anyways. To clean the closet out, to make the space so that if we were to then lose the weight, we give ourselves permission to go shopping, to buy new, to have that excitement. Not to return back to how we used to be, but how to start over, to find something new. And we need to do that with our thoughts. With our thoughts, are noticing every time a thought comes up, and we do this through meditation and building our meditation and able to examine our thoughts and then examine the emotions through mindfulness meditation. And allowing ourselves to notice what is our thought, what is our attachment, and what is not. And so you are extraordinary. You have purpose. You are worthy. And if you feel any less than that, if you feel like you've been put down, pushed down, and been repressed in any way, those are not your thoughts. Someone has told you that. Someone has gave you those beliefs. And you can give them back. You can donate them. You can recycle them. You can get rid of them. So it's time to sweep clean our thoughts, our mind. To sweep clean the body. Removing the toxins, removing the junk foods, because those are playing a huge role on your mindset. And so often we find ourselves trying to eat foods that enhance our emotions in order to get the feel-good ones. And so the sugars, the processed foods, the not so great foods, and you know which ones I'm talking about, those are only hurting you and keeping you repressed, shackled up, weighted down, those are only keeping you there. They're only keeping you stuck. And so we're not being nourished. We're just adding in fillers. If you're ready to change, if you're ready to release all of this, if you're ready to change the habits, to change the thoughts that change the habits, to allow this old way of being to die, and allow yourself to take on a new you, to transform, to move from being a caterpillar to being in a chrysalis, which is where you might feel now, to breaking free of the chrysalis, developing your wings and being free like a butterfly, then I invite you to join me in the well-nourished life. Not only in this group, which yes, we will have amazing things, you will still get tons of resources, but I also have a new program and I'd like to invite you to be in it. Right now I've got tons of opportunities where I'm waiving the coaching program fee because I want people that are really ready and dedicated and committed to changing. And we just filled up our level 3, which is weekly coaching. But tier 2 is now available for monthly coaching. You'll still get all of the program. You'll still get the 10-day cleanse and reset. You will still get all of the courses and the materials and the support and me checking in on you. And this program, when it's available, which will be after the new year, will be selling around $1,000 for the program. It's a 4-month program, but I'm waiving that $1,000. So if you'd like to get in on it, if you sound interested, if you feel interested, if this is something that feels good for you, then you can comment on this video or you can send me a direct message and let me know that you're interested. And then we'll start a conversation. By no means does it say you have to be in, you've signed up, you're good to go. No, we'll see if you really are and if this is the right program for you. Maybe we chat and I give you some really great tips and you're like, okay, that's all I need right now. Then we can do that. But I urge you to get in on this because through the new year, after the new year, this won't be available. So then we'll be moving into our tier 1, which is just the programs. No one-on-one, so you won't get that monthly 1-hour coaching session with me. Private coaching session. When we get into the new year, it'll just be the 10-day cleanse. And so when we're slowly offering these, stepping down until I have all the testimonials and all these results, and then it'll go back to normal prices. So I want you all who have been involved, are showing up, you're showing up. You've showed up for this, and I want to give you this opportunity. So I'm Izzy, and I hope that you have learned some things to help you today. Some thoughts, some movement, and know to breathe, to take the deep breaths. I will see you soon, and stay tuned for the next upcoming series of free webinars. Bye.